the U.S. Court of International Trade struck down President Trump's power to enforce tariffs unilaterally. He had been using a 1977 law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, saying that this was the trade deficit was an emergency, and that authorized his power to impose all these tariffs. This court said, no, that's not true. You can't create an emergency. This is not an emergency. That is not what Congress intended when they wrote the law. This is something courts do, is interpret the laws. That's the purpose of the judicial branch. And that holding has been put on pause by the appellate court now. The Trump administration is apoplectic, to say the least, saying that even if this bar is upheld with the Supreme Court, that they're going to find another mechanism to give him the power to impose tariffs unilaterally.
Yeah, we had not even 24 hours there, I guess, where everybody was kind of celebrating like, hey, this is great. We're not going to have to deal with the tariffs. Congress is going to be the ones to do this, at least for now. And that, I think it was the entire panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals for D.C. said, we're going to leave them in place, though. As this works its way through the appellate process, the tariffs can stay, and so you still have to deal with them. And so, to me, as somebody that did not go to law school, obviously you have, this seemed odd to me because typically, based on my experience reporting this and covering it for years, when the lower court has a particular ruling and says, no, the government cannot do this, that typically will stay through the appellate process, right? Typically, the bad decision that was ruled unconstitutional, you can't reinstate that while the appeals process goes. We've seen it happen multiple times here in the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis will put in a policy, the lower court says, I can't do that. And while it works its way, the judge typically says, no, it stays off the books until you finish. So this one did strike me as a little odd that the appellate court immediately said, no, tariffs can stay, because that typically doesn't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen 100% of the time, but it's not that common from what I've seen. Maybe it is, from your experience, but that seemed odd to me.
Well, essentially what they did is the Trump administration, several secretaries of different departments said that there would be irreparable damage to the United States if this stay were allowed to continue. The appellate court bought that argument, and that is why they suspended the ruling for now. Again, this is not a permanent ruling. The MAGA folks and the people from the Trump administration are claiming this is activist judges, but when you look at this three-panel court, this U.S. Court of International Trade, one of the judges is a Reagan appointee, one of them is a Trump appointee from the first term, and only one of the three is a Obama appointee. All three agreed that this was an overstep by the executive branch to create this emergency, that they've created an emergency to do this. The appellate court said, wait, they put the stay back, that the tariffs could continue, but there's no guarantee. There seems to be momentum, and there seems to be fear from the Trump administration that they are going to get this struck down, even in the higher court of the Supreme Court. Interestingly enough, another federal court has struck down tariffs that he used under another law for a toy manufacturer. So the courts move slowly by design, but we are seeing them catch up to this rapid-fire tariffs and saying, hey, you actually don't have the constitutional authority to unilaterally impose these tariffs.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that these judges, are coming to, with the exception of the stay. I don't like that. But, telling him, listen, this is for emergencies only. You can't tell me that the fire extinguisher in the hallway that says break in case of emergency, that your emergency was you just wanted to play with it. Like, no, that's not an emergency. You can't break the glass. But that's what you've done here because you're saying a trade deficit is an economic emergency. And I think once this gets to that appellate process, this administration is going to have to try to explain why that would constitute an emergency. And to me, that's going to be hilarious because they seem to think that trade deficit, or at least Trump does, is the same as budget deficit. And it is not. Those two are not related, even though they share a word. A budget deficit means I'm spending more than I'm bringing in. That's a problem. Whether you're a business, a government, a family, spending more than you bring in is a problem. That can create an emergency. A trade deficit just means I'm getting more from you, I'm buying more from you than you buy from me. But I get what I need, you get what you need, everybody's paying fair prices. That's not a problem. There is no problem with a trade deficit. And it's a 60-second argument that the plaintiffs can make to just destroy whatever it is they come with when this goes back in front of those judges.
Well, and a lot of these plaintiffs are small business owners, ironically. You know, how many times in our lives have we heard, particularly the conservative side, say, oh, we're for small businesses? It's small businesses that brought this lawsuit. Their states joined in as well, more liberal states. But the majority of the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are small business owners who are going to be put out of business by these tariffs. And so it's interesting to see the party, allegedly of small business, now with these small businesses to the screws and going out of business across this country, fight against them.